So I thought the next 2 days at this time, we'll do over-under bets. Let's start with the NFC over-under bets. Here we go.
All right, all odds are provided by Fox Bet. The Dallas Cowboys, 9.5 wins, over or under?
I think that's one of the easier bets on the board. I would go under. I think they just lost really good capital. I think they lost their leading sacker in Robert Quinn, their best corner in Byron Jones, their second best offensive line talent right now in Travis Frederick. And frankly, they got a new coach and a new coordinator, so that's an easy one, under.
New York Giants, 6.5 wins, over or under?
It's close to a push, but I would take the under because new coaches and new coordinators. Also, they've only won more than 7 games once since 2013. And here's the other thing. Their schedule's tough. They're going to face the AFC North. Okay. Pittsburgh's defense, Baltimore's defense, Cleveland's defense. They're also going to face the NFC West. Seattle's defense, Aaron Donald and the Rams, San Francisco's defense. I think the under on the Giants. Under.
Philadelphia Eagles, 9.5 wins, over or under?
Over. First of all, I think they had a sneaky good acquisition in wide receiver Marquise Goodwin. They picked up one of the NFL's best corner, Darius Slay. They also drafted a receiver, Jalen Rieger from TCU, and they kept both coordinators. So I think they should be favored in their division. I think Philadelphia feels like a 10 or an 11-win team. They cannot possibly have the injuries. It's not possible to have the injuries they felt with. They won, 9 games last year, and they were injury-riddled on their O-line, their secondary, and their receiving core.
The Washington Redskins, 5 wins, over, under, or push?
This feels like an obvious over. First of all, Ron Rivera has never won less than 5 games in a season. And they have quietly, their defense is top 3rd in the NFL. It's going to get better. You're going to go from Jay Gruden, an offensive guy, to Ron Rivera, a defensive guy. They drafted Chase Young, and they also went and got Kendall Fuller and Ronald Darby at corners and Thomas Davis at linebacker. This is going to be a top 6 or 7 defense in the NFL. If Chase Young is as good as we think, they're going to win more than 5 games. And Dwayne Haskins, if he's just serviceable, they'll win games.
The Chicago Bears, 8 wins, over, under, or push?
Feels like the perfect number. I wouldn't bet it. It's a push. 8 games is what they feel like. They won 8 games last year. I didn't think their draft was spectacular. I don't think they added a lot of difference makers, and they lost a couple of people in free agency I like. I think Matt Nagy is a very good coach, too good to be horrible, but I think they'll start with Trubisky, move to Nick Foles. In the division, frankly, Green Bay's got talent, Minnesota's got talent. I think 8's a push.
The Detroit Lions, 6.5 wins, over or under?
I think it's a mess. I think it's an under. I think it's a 5-6 win team. Matt Patricia's struggled. Matt Stafford's coming off an injury, but the division's really, really good. They lost Darius Slay. They had a nice draft, but I just don't think they have enough playmakers in that division. I don't see that team capable of going toe-to-toe with Minnesota's roster, Aaron Rodgers in that offense, or frankly, Matt Nagy, I think, is a significantly better coach. So I think it's, again, a woeful season for Detroit.
The Green Bay Packers, 9 wins, over, under, or push?
It's a push. I think that's the number. Remember, they went 7-1 in one-possession games. You could say to yourself, well, that's because of Aaron Rodgers. Nah, that one-possession wins like that generally don't translate year after year, despite having a great quarterback. They also lost Blake Martinez, who was a tackling machine for them last year, and they were outgained last year. Let's not kid ourselves. Very few times do you see, you'll have 1 or 2 teams a year that make the playoffs and get outgained. It's usually a wild card team. They were 13-3 and were outgained.
The Minnesota Vikings, 8.5 wins, over or under?
Again, that seems like an easy one. That's over. I thought they added 2 starters in the first round. Jeff Gladney, the corner from TCU, and Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver from LSU. I also think they had some defensive losses, but I think Mike Zimmer is a great defensive coach. So this is a really good, well-run organization, well-coached. And, Kirk Cousins, say what you want, he wins a lot. He may not win a lot of big games, but he wins a lot of games. This is an easy over for me. Minnesota is a 9 or a 10 win team.
The Atlanta Falcons, 7.5 wins, over or under.
I would say they're at that number. I'd probably bet the under, like the owner, like the quarterback, but this is what they become, kind of 7-9, 8-8, it feels like. I also think the division is significantly better, so I would say under 7.5.
The Carolina Panthers, 5.5 wins, over or under.
This feels like an easy over. Easy over. First of all, very quietly, they went out and had a great defensive draft. They had a great defensive draft. They also bring in offensively Robbie Anderson, Russell Okung, and Teddy Bridgewater. Those are really good players. So they get a deep threat to go along with DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. So they bring in a third productive wide receiver. They solved their left tackle issue, and Teddy Bridgewater has a winning record. And Matt Rule, and I think this is one of the things Matt knows, Matt's going to make your offense better. He's going to make everybody better. Their question is defense, and they just drafted defensive players solely. So I think they're going to be a very competitive team. This division's scary. I think they're going to be about a 7-9, 8-8 team. But the idea they're rebuilding now, I don't buy it. I think Carolina's got players.
How about Teddy's last team, the New Orleans Saints, 10.5 wins, over or under?
I just think I think they're a really good football team, but that's a huge number. Very few teams win 11 and 12 games in the NFL. Breeze is 41 years old. The division's significantly better. So, I mean, I think they could absolutely split with Atlanta, split with Tampa, and split with Carolina. I think they're very good. I think they should be favored to win the division, but 10.5 is a huge number. I think they're a popular team, so people will bet the over. I'd probably bet the under.
Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks, 9.5 wins, over or under.
Again, think they're good. That's a huge number. I'd say bet the under. I think Tom and Bruce Arians, because they didn't have OTAs and because of the virus, could be choppy in September. Their schedule, by the way, they play the AFC West. So that's no day at the beach. They got to play Kansas City. They got to play the Chargers. They got to play Denver and Oakland. And let's just be honest. This could be a very good football team. It's doubtful they're humming in September. So when I get a look at their schedule next Thursday, the NFL releases it, I'll have a much better feeling. But I would say under 9.5.
The Arizona Cardinals, 7.5 wins, over or under.
Again, I think they're rebuilding and they're going in the right direction, but they feel like a 6 or a 7 win team to me. I think the NFC West is just too damn good. I just think it's too good, and I still think their defense is a mess. Isaiah Simmons will help, but their defense last year was the worst in the NFL, and that's facing now Garoppolo, Shanahan, McVay, Goff, Russell Wilson. So I think they're rebuilding in the right direction, but that division's too hard to flip in a year.
The LA Rams, 8.5 wins, over or under.
I'm going to go under. I think they're at 500. It's close to a push, but you're not going to push 8.5, so I would go under. Too many losses like Dante Fowler, Wade Phillips. They have a new coordinator. I do like that Jared Goff wants to restructure his contract, but Brandon Cooks, who I was never a huge fan of, but he can play, is gone. They'll need Josh McReynolds to be healthy and play. So I feel the division's good, and I feel 8-9. I think it's real close to the number. I'd probably go under.
San Francisco 49ers, 10.5 wins, over or under.
It's replacing Joe Staley with Trent Williams would give me an over. I think they got 2 starters in the first round, and I think Trent Williams is a huge get. Arrested Trent Williams, so that leads me to believe they're just going to keep on rolling.
The Seattle Seahawks, 9.5 wins, over or under.
I think it's an easy over. They were 11-5 last year, despite massive injuries, especially down the stretch. So Russell Wilson's won 10-plus games in 7 of his 8 seasons. I think the NFC Championship feels like Seattle's going to be in it. They went and got a couple of starters defensively in the draft. They also got Quentin Dunbar and Bruce Irvin. Dunbar will start at corner. So I think Seattle last year shocked me. They were a lot better. And I'm from the area. I was shocked that Seattle was a playoff team last year. The young players delivered. DK Metcalf delivered. So I would bet the over on Seattle. Tomorrow we will do the AFC over and unders. Chris Sims joining us. So let me ask you, as somebody that played in the league and somebody that's played with Mac Brown, John Gruden, Jeff Fisher, Josh McDaniels. You've played with demanding coaches, Chris, and egos and coaches. So Matt LaFleur, now they draft Jordan Love. Do you think Aaron thinks, Chris, Matt could have stopped that? What do you think Aaron thinks today about that and Matt and the fact, not just getting Jordan Love, but will it create strain with Matt LaFleur?
Right. That's a good question. I haven't heard a lot of people bring that point up. I mean, one, I would think if I just put myself in Aaron Rodgers' shoes right now, I would be sitting there going, if Matt LaFleur didn't want this to happen, I would think he'd have the power to make that not happen and say that's a little ridiculous, right?
That's what I think.
Right. I agree there. Again, I don't think that Brian Gutekunst, who I have a lot of respect for and has done a lot of good things there. Listen, I'm a little puzzled by their draft. I certainly didn't like it. I would have gone all in on Rodgers. I mean, we're in the era of quarterbacks playing till they're 40 years old.
Yeah.
This is it's a quarterback that's still playing top 5 in football. I know he's no longer the best quarterback in football, but he's certainly in the class with Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. He is in that top 5 class for me still. And that's where I don't understand it. And yes, I think, the Green Bay Packers are playing with fire here. One, they've really empowered Rodgers now. That's the one thing I think a lot of people are losing, sight of here. They're looking at, have they taken power back from Rodgers? Maybe over the long haul, but for the next 2 years, they're stuck with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Look at the salary cap situation. So he's going to be able to say, hey, screw you. I'm going to change the play. What are you going to do about it? I'm not going to be here in 3 years maybe. And that empowers him to a degree, but I still just don't understand it. And, not to give him weapons. And then more importantly, Colin, their run defense stunk last year.
Yeah.
They got run over by every good running team they played on the schedule last year.
Yep.
And to not address that is also puzzling.
Yeah, and Blake Martinez is kind of a tackle machine. Right. And he left. So, no, I mean, the wide receiver thing, you know what I looked at when I looked at the Packers draft? They got a blocking tight end, another running back, and three interior linemen offensively. What they were saying to me was, listen, we got pushed over by the Niners twice and by the Chargers. We can't block people. We just can't block people. So I get what they did. I just wouldn't have done the running back. I get the blocking tight end, and I get the interior lineman. I would have just for imagery gotten a receiver over a running back. That pick bothered me. That high.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that bothered me a lot too. And, with Aaron Rodgers, I've said this, and of course I'm the leader of his fan club. I know that. I think he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play. And I know that everybody feels that way. But, also what it tells me too, to a degree, is just they expect Rodgers to make more magic. I mean, I don't know if we've seen a quarterback really over the last 8 to 10 years have to carry their team more than Aaron Rodgers. Here's a stat I stumbled across today. Do you know how many touchdown passes he's thrown to a first-round pick? 1 to Mercedes Lewis, who just got there a few years ago. But I think that just tells you about the type of talent they've had around him at the wide receiver position for a long, long time there. It's him making chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what a lot of the times, and he's able to do that. But he's getting to the part of his career where he's not going to be able to do it the same way he always did. We saw last year some moments of going, ooh, I'm used to seeing Rodgers get away from that guy when he's under pressure and he got tripped up. Or, ooh, he usually throws a fastball into that tight window and maybe he lost a mile per hour or two on that fastball. It's still one of the greatest arms in the league. But, again, this is a human and we're starting toward the down part of his career. There's no doubt about that. But I just think we're a far ways off before we're having the conversation of let's replace him and start thinking about the future.
Now, here's where I'll push back. I tell my kids this all the time. Don't be a victim. Our problems are not everybody else's problems. Is that his dad's called him out, a brother's called him out, teammates have called him out. There was the article where the GM called him out. Couldn't I say, listen, Aaron's talented, but I don't see people calling out Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Some of this is on Aaron, that he's a little prickly, can be absolutely condescending, and he's got to own some of his own baggage here.
Well, listen, they're not, hey, all these guys, Brady and Brees, they're a pain in the butt too. I can promise you that. They have but you're right. I understand exactly what you're saying. Rodgers is prickly. He is a little sensitive, or hears what people are saying and kind of carries that baggage around with him. Definitely. I don't deny that to one degree. I think, the big thing is there though, where I would just say is, again, it's the culture that's set up by the Saints and Patriots that don't allow it. Green Bay is a culture of we draft a quarterback, we treat him like God, and we just let him run the team. And they did that with 2 quarterbacks in a row, with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of the way the organizations run. Hey, there's no owner in the building. So these guys become bigger than life in a place like Green Bay. Where in New England, hey, we know the culture is set forth first by Bill Belichick, and then the same with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. They're happy a lot of the time because they got good talent, and every time they drop back to pass, they look and they go, damn, there's somebody wide open. There we go again. That's great. Rodgers hasn't always had that luxury, and I think that's where, there's a little difference there, I guess, in just the cultures they were raised in, I'm saying. And Aaron Rodgers has to be kind of his own entity as compared to Brees and Brady, which seem more organizational type guys. But from Aaron Rodgers, he took over from Brett Favre, and it's a little like Peyton Manning. From day one, he was, hey, Aaron, you need to throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns or we can't win the football game. And that's kind of the way the culture has been up in Green Bay. And, of course, that breeds a little bit of an ego and a guy that, of course, is, wants to run the show a little bit more.
No, I think it's a fair point. The culture is quarterback save us. It's not a free agent destination. You're going to have to, you're going to be a little bit of a star. And let's throw this out there. It's the smallest NFL market. It's like Shaq in Orlando. So when you have this sort of, a belief system, which is we can't get free agents, you really are going to run the franchise. And it's also a small town. So, Damon Stoudemire told me this years ago. He loved playing in Toronto. He goes, I just disappear. We got a baseball team. We got a CFL team. We got an NBA team. It's an international city. He goes, I put a hat on. I disappear. I go to Portland. He goes, I'm an NBA player. And so I do think when you're the quarterback in Green Bay, more than any city, you can't go to the grocery store, to your point.
No, you become godlike.
Yes.
I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
You become like you're a true icon of the state, key to the city. You're the man. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. Let me shift to this. Sam Darnold and Baker came in at the same time. But last year, Darnold goes 7-6, A, battling mono, and B, with very little help. Baker last year had tons of help. Melted down off the field, called out his medical staff, goes 6-10, and was a mess. I think this is Baker's last year. I think they have too much talent. I think he's made too many missteps. I think if Darnold was 500, they would maybe move off Gase, but they would stay with Sam. His traits and qualities would buy him a year. I don't know if Baker has built that equity up. What say you on those two came in as high profile? Others have outplayed him. I think this is it for Baker. I think he'll be given the year. I think Derek Carr won't last the year, perhaps. I think Trubisky may not start the year. So where do you land? We're moving off young quarterbacks faster than ever. Jameis can't get a legit job. Cam can't get a job. Dalton's now out of work and he's young. Mariota. So where do you land on the Baker thing and the Darnold thing right now? I've always been a Darnold fan, but I do think Baker's up against the wall here.
Well, listen, I agree with a lot of what you said there. Yeah, this is a huge year for Derek Carr. You're spot on there. I do think if that just becomes a 8-8, 7-9 type record, that they will look somewhere else in next offseason at quarterback. You've said it about Trubisky. I don't even think they can start Trubisky. I mean, if Trubisky throws one incompletion in Chicago, people are going to boo him off the field and say, get Nick Foles in there. So I expect Nick Foles to be the day one starter there in Chicago when all's said and done. And, I agree with you, in the Baker-Sam Darnold conversation. I don't know if I agree with you in the aspect that this will be it. This will be the 1 year. No, I don't think they're going to give up on their number one pick quite like that. But I think there's tremendous pressure on Baker Mayfield. I think out of those 5 quarterbacks that we saw drafted in the first round of that draft, he probably has more pressure on him than any of them, right? Josh Allen went to the playoffs. You just mentioned what Sam Darnold kind of did. Lamar Jackson, of course, is the MVP of football, and Josh Rosen's not a part of the conversation right now. But yes, Baker set a bar that was kind of high his rookie year when we went, whoa, oh, man, okay, this guy was worth the number one pick. Look at him. He's making plays and throws. Certainly regressed last year. Had a lot of errant throws, bad decisions. I think some other things went on where he changed plays and wasn't supposed to at times, too. And there was issues like that. Added to the fact of what you said, there was tremendous talent around him last year. I mean, they underachieved. And OBJ, we know, wasn't 100%. but I think that does add more pressure on him than just about any quarterback in football, especially now that they've added 2 tackles to the group, and you really sit there in the offense and you go, that Cleveland offense is really well built. They have no excuse not to be like a top 3, top 5 offense in the sport. So I'm with you. The only thing I'll say with Sam Darnold, and I really like him, in his first 2 years, he's been able to avoid the pressure-packed part of the schedule. Like last year, you mentioned he got the mono, okay? He came back, the season was over. They were already 0 for 5, 0 for 4, something like that, around that, to where, you know, it was almost like, okay, hey, Sam's back and he looks good, but we're out of the race here. And the year before that, he hurt his foot right kind of in the meat and the potatoes of the season. So I've liked everything. Like, I'm with you with Sam Darnold. I've liked everything I've seen. They got to put some talent around him. I think they've gone a long way to do that in the offseason, the free agency, and the draft. And I expect him to be like a much more hot topic conversation next year, to be in, ooh, watch out for the Jets. They're building something there. I love what Joe Douglas did in the draft as the GM. And I think Adam Gase has finally got some pieces where he can play with and make his offense evolve around Sam Darnold and make it effective that way.
Think Patriots go after Andy Dalton?
Maybe. I would say I doubt it. I think I think the New England Patriots and it really, this is their plan. I think this is why they drafted Jarrett Stidham. You know, Jarrett Stidham would go into that group a little like Drew Lock from last year's draft too, where if they left school the year before, they would have been first-round picks. But we're in the era of when the team falls down, we blame all the downfalls on just one guy. I mean, you know, the year before, Drew Lock led the college football in touchdown passes. The team fell apart. We blamed him. Same thing with Jarrett Stidham. Auburn was awesome his junior year. Senior year, he had the worst pass protection I saw at any quarterback in that draft and had no help. And then, therefore, we went, oh, Stidham, he's not a winner. And I don't think New England gives a damn what everybody else thinks. I think they saw a guy at Stidham that they thought could possibly be that next guy. So I expect them to stay with Hoyer and Stidham. Let Stidham play the year out. If it's an underwhelming year, then, as you know, New England will have a plan to proceed from there on out.
Chris Sims, NBC analyst, NBC Sports, NFL analyst. He doesn't analyze NBC. He analyzes football.
Sometimes I analyze NBC.
Good talking to you, Chris.